In a collection of over 1,000 tarot decks, each one holds its own voice, its own magic. But some, oh some, whisper more sweetly than others. I've taken time to wander through my shelves, to pause, to reflect, and to rediscover the decks that stir something deep within me. Not just those with breathtaking imagery and evocative artwork, but those that shine in their own unique ways. Some with cardstock that feels like silk between the fingers, others housed in boxes that are treasures in themselves. Each one brings a kind of beauty, whether in form, feeling, or the clarity of the readings they offer. These are the ones that don't just tell a story, they become one. So join me as I share the most beautiful tarot decks from my collection, each a mirror, a masterpiece, and a muse. Hey up my ducks, welcome back to the Hermit's Cave and good morning. It's Sunday morning and yeah, I got up really early today. I think I'm still even though I'm in holiday mode, I think my body clock is telling me something different. So waking up at 5 is kind of the norm, but I've been thinking about doing this video for some time. I think it was when I crossed having 1,000 decks. So I use an app called Libib to catalogue all my decks. For some reason I never did that with Oracle, so I'm not quite sure the number of Oracle decks. I'm looking over there because I've got a bookcase full of Oracle decks. But around March, end of March, beginning of April, that number of tarot decks crossed 1,000, and some have had to come off the shelves behind me and go into a back room. Others have had to go into some boxes, ones that I just don't use at the moment. But I know what's in what, and should I want to pull them out in the future, then that should be pretty easy to do. But I recently received a deck that I'd backed on Kickstarter, no spoilers, and I was just blown away by how incredibly beautiful it was. And on the video where I did the walkthrough and in conversations with other people since, I've used the phrase, it's got to be one of my most beautiful tarot decks that I have in my collection. And that got me thinking well, I've got 1,000 decks over now, about 1,030, I think it is, somewhere around that number. It's not important. But what it got me thinking was, out of those decks, what would I consider to be my most beautiful tarot decks? And by beautiful, I don't necessarily mean just the artwork, although that's probably the main thing for me, but just the whole aesthetic. You know, what's the cardstock like? How does it feel in the hand? Has it got beautiful backs or beautiful edging? Does it come in a beautiful box? Does it give the most beautiful readings? So, and beauty is very subjective, we all know that. So these are just my most beautiful decks. And I'm surrounded by them at the moment. And yeah, I have to consider that being surrounded by these beautiful decks, I've got around 15, that only equates to 1.5% of my deck collection. So I'm sure people will say or leave comments saying things like, I'm surprised that this deck didn't make it in, or what about this deck? And being as I'm only talking about 1.5% of my tarot decks, there are, of course, other really, really beautiful tarot decks. I mean, that's why they're still here in my collection. But this video just goes a little bit deeper into the most beautiful decks, in my opinion, from my collection, and hopefully I'll be able to justify why. Okay, so yeah, so before I begin, these decks that I'm about to show you are ones that I feel that when I received them, they really took my breath away because of their artistic style and beauty, but also some that are printed on cardstock that just feels like silk in the hands, or where the boxes that they come in are works of art in their own right. Others I've just received readings from them that are so beautiful and profound that they stay with me a long time after the cards have been put away. So just to reiterate, beauty isn't just one thing, particularly when it comes to the tarot. It's a combination of aesthetics, emotion, experience. So hopefully I'll be able to share with you some of those decks that really embody that magic. All right, let's get started. So the first deck that I want to talk about is the True Black Tarot. I mean, who doesn't know this deck? And again, talking of the finish of boxes, etc., this is just beautiful. Now, I'd only just started a channel back in 2017, but when I was contacted by Arthur Wang, but I had a tarot presence, or a presence in the tarot sphere, should we say, on Instagram for a few years before that. And it was because of Arthur Wang had been following me on Instagram, and he contacted me to say, I'm bringing out a new deck. It will be in about a year's time. Can I send you some sample cards? And I've kept them. These are the ones that he sent me. Just look at the backs. And this was the first time I had ever felt a rose petal finish. And I spoke to the creator, and I said to him, what is that finish on the cards? The only thing I could liken it to is one of my favorite aftershaves is Amen by Thierry Mugler. And it felt like the outside of that bottle. And he said, it's a very new cardstock finish. This deck is the first of its kind. If I can get it out in time, it will be the first. And it was certainly one of the first, but there was another deck, which I'll be showing you shortly, that that actually got out their deck out first. But I mean, rose petal finishes now are pretty much commonplace, aren't they? This is the end result, the True Black Tarot. And it's just gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. I love this deck. I love that it's on black. I love how the colours just pop. I love the little I think they call it spot glossing, don't they? That just, when you read with this deck under a like candlelight, it's just exquisite. So a really, really beautiful deck, the True Black Tarot. And I thought I would mention it first. Now, none of these decks, except for my number one, are in order. So it's not like this is in 15th place. I was going to do that, but it made the task even more difficult than it needed to be. I'm just sharing with you my most beautiful decks. However, when I've done these in the past, I do like to say, but this is this is my number one. The next one that I want to show you, in fact, I'll show it now. So when I talked about another deck coming out first, it's these beauties, which is the Luminous Void. Now this is created by Laura Zuspan. I saw this when I went to Scotland. I went to stay with a friend, Elaine, and she said, have you seen the Luminous Void? And I said I hadn't. And she went into her room and she came out with this this deck. And I held it in my hand. Even the very little guidebook is in rose petal as well. Well, the cover anyway. And I remember saying, this is the cardstock that True Black is going to be on. Again, this was back in 2018. And I'd never seen a deck like this. I love the shape. I love that it's on this soft, and if people are familiar with Cantergy Oracle, then they'll know this art style because that's also by Laura Zuspan. The backs are gorgeous. So this came out in 2018 and I almost went straight on my phone and ordered it, but I was about to start, because Scotland was the first step on my traveling around the UK. So I was like, okay, I need to find out how much I'm going to spend on this trip, because I was staying in hotels, bed and breakfast, guest houses, friends' houses, and you know, it actually turned out that I spent quite a lot of money over those weeks of traveling around. Plus, I didn't want to miss the postage if I was, you know, away, to be able to receive it anyway. So all the way through my trip, look how beautiful that page of discs is. All the way through my trip, I was thinking, do you know what? Don't spend too much because you want to buy Luminous Void. And it's gorgeous. I love the colours. The watercolour. Some of them are very pastel. That devil is epic. The only criticism a lot of people had was its shuffleability, because it's, you know, my huge hands struggling just to get around this. So I did have to kind of shuffle that way as an overhand shuffler that I am. And then a couple of years later, maybe not even that long, maybe 18 months or so, they brought out what they call the, they referred to it as the Shuffle edition. So it's still copyright 2018 because that's when the first one came out. So this one is obviously in a more, it's got the little book again at the bottom. But even this, when compared to a standard tarot, it's still taller. But this is the shuffle version. And again, there's no change. It's this beautiful, and I'd never seen back then in 2018 this sort of matte. It's quite commonplace now, but at the time, not so. And again, just beautiful, but more easier to handle. And certainly now I can, you know, shuffle that way. So yeah, Luminous Void definitely is one of, or they're both, whichever version, falls into the category of some of my most beautiful tarot decks. So next I'm going to show, well, firstly I'm going to have a sup of coffee. Then I'm going to show an RWS deck. Now, I suppose I should point out that some of these decks are going to be out of print. Not all of them, in fact the majority, in fact nearly all of them I think are still in print, with the exception of a couple. And one of them is the next one that I'm going to show you. So apologies in advance, but I still like to show them because I see people show out of print decks, and I'm able to find them if I really want to get them. But this one's by US Games, and it's a RWS, and it's the Pamela Coleman Smith limited gold edition. It does have its flaws for me, not for everyone, but for me, and I'll explain why. But I was very excited when this set came out, because we'd had from US Games the Centennial, which was beautiful. That was the 100-year anniversary back in 2009. I think this came out about 5 years ago. I'm not for sure if it says 2020, yeah, 5 years ago. And it was a gold gilded edition. Now, there used to be a tarot deck years ago that had a gold gilded edition, a gold gilded version of the RWS, but it was really hard to find. I'll mention the minuses first. They're glossy, and I'm not a huge lover of glossy cards. And also, it was when US Games was still putting their god-awful copyrights down the edge of the cards. And I am somebody who finds that quite distracting, particularly because I've got so many RWS decks now that don't have it. When I see it, it really irks me. I love the box, the presentation. We've got Pixie's signature here, which I have tattooed. I love that. It's so witchy. It's very much like a sigil, but yeah, beautiful. So what I like about this deck are the backs. The backs are stunning. Okay, as I said, they're glossy, but we have this fleur-de-lis design going on this beautiful dark, like a bottled green, and the gold and the green together really do finish it off beautifully. It has lovely gold gilding. I've used this deck quite a lot, and the gilding has remained intact, not a chip or anything on it. So it is quality, but just look at that. How beautiful is that? I'm not going to show the cards in any great detail because it's RWS, but they kept the Centennial, the 1909 or the later Centennial version of the 1909 style of art, in terms of that sort of aged effect, which I absolutely love. The colours, like the yellows, aren't garish, they're more of a mustard yellow. And it's a beautiful version. Just those couple of points that I wish were different. I wish it was on matte cardstock, and I wish it was released again without the copyright. But yeah, Pamela Coleman Smith limited gold edition, I believe is out of print. But as I say, you could, if you really wanted it, pick it up from auction sites. I've got a pile of things to show you, and a pile where I'm putting what I've already shown you, and it's starting to look a bit like tarot Jenga. Okay, next, these are 2 of the 15, but I am going to show them together because they're by the same creator and they share a very similar name in terms of the title, the name of the decks. And that is the New Choice and New Voice Tarots by Rosario Salerno. New Choice Tarot de Marseille came first. I'm just going to put that to one side. I, at the time, was just an RWS boy. That was all I was interested in. And then I saw this, I believe, on Instagram. And I was like, oh, wow, that artwork is stunning. The use of colours was just wonderful. And I was talking to my friend Kelly Bear at the time, and she had backed it on, I think it was Kickstarter. It could have been Indiegogo. And then when it came in, I went to stay with Kelly, and we talked about this deck a lot, and we did a live together, and we talked about our favourite pip decks, and we both agreed that at the time this was both of our favourite decks, and it is absolutely beautiful. I think there was a second, I've got two versions of this because very often if I have a deck that I say is, oh, this is my favourite deck, I try wherever possible to get a backup copy. And so I did have a backup copy. There is a second version which, instead of the kind of like the yellow gold, it was a rose gold. I didn't get a copy of that because I didn't really feel I needed 3 copies. But I was tempted to get one and then trade one of the first editions, but I didn't. Anyway, the colours and the sacred geometry on the back are just mouth-wateringly beautiful. This cardstock is probably my most preferred cardstock. It's a really soft matte. You can see there's no reflection from the lights. It's the right sort of thickness, and it just feels like silk in the hands. The detailing of the line work in this deck is exquisite. Just look at this for the Ace of Coins. It does have a modern take. It's based on the Berlin club scene, particularly the gay and fetish scene. There's lots of pinks and purples, which are my favourite colour combinations. And yeah, it's just gorgeous. Look at this Ace of Cups. So beautiful. And I could just sit looking at these images for hours. He says, seeing a semi-naked person. Trust me to say that if that card comes up. This death card is amazing. Here's our King of Cups. There's the Fool. It's a stunning deck, and when you do a spread with your cards laid out on the table, they just look gorgeous. And that sound, I mean, oh gosh, look at this. Our lovers here. Yeah, it is just really, really beautiful. I mean, check out that Pope. I couldn't do this video and not include this. It's gorgeous. And as I mentioned, the detailing and the use of colour is just exquisite. Okay, so New Choice Tarot di Marseille by Rosario Salerno, a lovely guy as well. And then a few years later, and I was so invested by this point that I followed the whole creative process, because I then discovered Ross on Facebook, and he had he would design a card. He would put up the black and white sketch first, and people would give feedback on it, and then he would colour it in, and he'd compare it with one of Pixie's cards. And I just loved the whole process of watching this deck come to life. The box is beautiful. These are larger cards than the New Choice. Some people didn't like that. They said they wanted it almost the same, so they could carry them together in like a double case or something. But so this is the inside. It says here, search deep with an open heart. The voice of the universe is near. You do get this little book, which is wonderful. And then very similarly, what does it say on the inside? I forgot. Let it in for its advice. Heal and feel hope and cheer. And it's got this beautiful metallic rainbow vibe, just like the edges of the card. So this one is in like a pearlescent silver, Look at that, you see the prism of colours. Oh, it's just gorgeous. The backs are very similar to, as you would have seen from the New Choice Tarot de Marseille, the New Voice Tarot. And I think that's really clever, New Choice, New Voice, to kind of bring them together as a set. Very similar art style, but a lot more detailed. Because obviously there's more scenic, particularly with the minors, to incorporate into the design, but these tell more of a story. I mean, look at that for the 3 of Wands. Look at the use of colour. The sunset is beautiful with the pink sky and even the nighttime scenes. Again, it's on that beautiful silky matte cardstock. He used a lot of real life people to create this deck. So friends and friends of friends. So gorgeous. Colours in this are, again, just stunning. Look at that Empress. I can remember this card being created. 10 of Swords. It's clever that it's a tattoo design on his back. Our King of Cups. Love that. The 6 of Cups, when you think about the nostalgia element and looking back. And here we've got like a photo album. They're looking back at a time. And that's what photos do, don't they? They lead to nostalgia. One of my favourite tarot cards ever for the 3 of Swords. Love the tear, the sorrow, the pain. An actual physical manifestation of the emotional pain that's being felt, you know, when we cry. Going over this little tattoo on the cheek. So powerful. I love it. And Roz is somebody who's very heavily tattooed. He has the coolest tattoos though. I love them. And he brings that into a lot of his decks. Look at that for the Sun card. The Hanged Man. The Devil. 9 of Cups. So yeah, the New Voice Tarot is also one of the most beautiful decks in my collection. I do wonder if he's working on anything next, maybe an oracle or something, but if he is and you know about it, let me know, because I think, you know, Ross can do no wrong. His decks are absolutely gorgeous. Okay, next is a deck from Destiny, and this one is the Retina Weight Smith. I put it in this bag. It wasn't what I originally bought this bag for. This is from the lovely Giselle at Mad Witch Creations, and she made this for me. No, she didn't actually, sorry. This is Elf. She did make another bag for me. This is one that I purchased from her shop. But I decided to put the Retina in here because of this beautiful gold. And the inside is just gorgeous. I mean, look at this. Now this is an RWS deck, but it's not Pixie's work. It's Singh Poonfat, who is part of the Destiny team. And I just thought that this was beautiful. There is a second edition. Whilst this one is out of print, the second edition is still in print as of the time of making this video. And it's silver rather than gold. And it's just as beautiful. But what they've done is very closely mirrored Pixie's artwork, but just given it some depth. The images aren't flat. Again, it's on that lovely cardstock that I've just spoken about. It gives you that sort of matte, feeling. The line work is really sharp and clear. as you can see, but there is shadowing and shading, and that sort of gradient in the colours, ombre styles like skies, etc., rather than just like I say, flat colours. And I love this. The only thing is the font. And I get why they've put a standard font, because it's not Pixie's artwork. I mean, it is, but it's been recreated. I mean, look at the shading in this, and the sky is just beautiful. I mean, look here. Do you see the shadows from the swords that's being cast by? See the light coming in from what you would imagine a sun quite high in the sky, and it's casting these shadows. But we've got the dark clouds coming in as well. I think this is so beautiful. One of my all-time favourite RWS decks. One of, before somebody leaves a comment saying how many favourite RWS decks have you got. Again, look at this. It's so atmospheric. It really brings alive the Five of Cups. Same here with the Death card. Just beautiful. But the backs as well, and I have used this deck with lots of candles lit, and they just, it's never the same under like an artificial light, or I've got sunlight in front of me, but really gorgeous. So that is the Retina Waite Smith. They did that because then it's RWS. And they build it as a 78 multicoloured tarot cards. And that's by the guys over at Destiny. They do have an Etsy shop. I know shipping is quite expensive, but well worth it once you get them. Next is a really, or fairly recent, I've had it about 2 months. So yeah, that's pretty recent. And that's the Metanoia Marseille. It's by Bouchette Design. Have some wonderful decks out. I love this box. It doesn't have, apart from here just at the end, quite inconspicuous, it doesn't have any kind of writing or title on the box. And I think this could sit out on your reading space, as beautiful as it is. This was a gift. The deck was a gift, and so was this beautiful suede leather pouch with a little, there's a little quartz point here. And so I keep them together in this, and I think the yellows match quite nicely. It's Metanoia Marseille, so it's a Marseille deck. It's got this beautiful matte duck egg blue edge into it, which is wonderful. It has the rose petal finish. Now, the one thing about rose petal finish is some people say it's difficult to shuffle. I don't experience that personally, but you get no reflection on the cards, so you really do. And you know, if I was to just do a quick, this is where my tarot Jenga comes to bite me. A quick comparison with the deck I showed earlier that I said was glossy, which is the Pamela Coleman Smith Tarot. Let me just left that a sec. So you see the ring light there. That's what you get with gloss. With matte, you don't get anything. Well, sorry, that's incorrect. With matte, you would get some reflection. With rose petal, you don't. See how it disappears? So that's what I love about cards that have the rose petal finish. It's not everybody's taste, not everybody likes it, but again, everything I'm talking about today is very subjective because I'm talking about decks that are obviously in my tarot collection. I'll get the lid back on that now. All right, so Metanoia Marseille, just look how beautiful this is. I love the shimmering in this gold gown. The pips are exquisitely illustrated. Again, we get lots of shadows and depth. They just feel gorgeous to hold. Our valet of coins. It's stunning. And by the time I discovered this, and I went to check it out, it had sold out and there was just a pocket version available. I would have got the pocket version if that was the only choice. And then I heard there was another edition coming out on Kickstarter for later in the year, but it was changed slightly. I'm not sure how much. It's been around for 2 years. But as I mentioned, a very, very kind and generous friend managed to get a copy and sent it to me as a gift, and it's a treasured gift because it is so beautiful. There are two, might be the one before. No, oh, look at the Hermit. Look at that light going past his sleeve here. Isn't that gorgeous? There's 2 extra cards. It's an 8 card deck. One is The Time Is Now, and the other is that it's not time currently. I forgot the exact wording on the card, but now is not the time, basically, is what it means. The time is now, or now is not the time. And I'm going to want to find it, aren't I? Because that's how my brain works. It takes time. There we go. So the time is now, or what this is subtly telling me is it's not right time. It will take time. It is coming, but not immediately. So Metanoia Marseille by Bouchette Design is a beautiful Marseille deck. And I'm really enjoying working with pip decks at the moment. I never thought I'd say that, but I'm finding myself, excuse me, just have a sip of coffee. I'm doing too much talking. I've been finding myself watching a lot of channels that I hadn't discovered before, because I did a tag recently, which is the deck that tag. So the deck that brings me comfort, the deck that challenges me, that sort of thing. And quite a few people, about 30 channels have responded to it so far. And it's led me to find new people in the community. And quite a few people have been showing a lot of pip decks. And I found that when I'm going on now, line now, looking at decks, I'm looking at pip decks. And I can read either pips or fully illustrated cards like the RWS system, but I don't know, my taste at the moment seems to be going the way of the pip. Talking of pips, the next one, and if you'd asked me 6 months ago my most beautiful decks and told me that this one would be in it, I would have laughed, because it's a new love affair that I've been having, and that's the Greeny, the Thoth. I know. Now I was very lucky to find a Greeny, which, I mean, I adore. Look at the colours, just stunning. The green borders really do set off these images, particularly the ones with yellow backgrounds. Just gorgeous. And I absolutely love it. It's out on my desk. It's not going back onto a shelf. It just lives here in a little tray. But I'm going to show this version, which is by Anna, And this is available on Make Playing Cards. I didn't realise this version existed. She sent it me because I'd purchased a mini Greeny. And I thought, well, do you know what? It was Tammy Pie who showed it on her channel, and I was like, oh, I'm not into tarot, but those colours on that mini Greeny look really nice. Maybe if I just buy a mini deck, I could see how I get on with it. Absolutely fell in love with it. Worked with this deck for 2 months exclusively. It is on a linen cardstock, as you can see. Very bendy, not the thickest of cardstock, but certainly not what I'd call thin cardstock, because it's linen, it's very springy. But this deck, I have just developed a completely 360-degree change of heart. I used to think that the Thoth was ugly. I used to think that it was cold, that there was just something about it. I couldn't read with it. And don't get me wrong, I'm not into Kabbalah or a lot of the esotericness of modern day tarot, shall we say. However, and gatekeepers be gone if you come after me with, you shouldn't be reading Thoth that way. For me, and it's the same with reading pips, for me, I read them by intuitively what I see in the image, but also bringing in the elements and bringing in numerology. And that is also esoteric overlaying, but not as far as astrology, Kabbalah, etc., alchemy. Yeah, it's just, for me, is the devil. And the thing is as well with Thoth is you get keywords. So you can see here, we have 6 of Cups and we have pleasure. Now, when you think of 6 of Cups in RWS, and we just talked about this with Ross's deck, for me, that the first word that springs to mind is nostalgia. But doesn't nostalgia bring a sense of pleasure? So there is that correlation. 6 as well is, for me, about harmony. It's about victory, if you think of the 6 of Wands. So if I'm thinking of emotions of the Cups, and I'm thinking of pleasure, and I'm thinking of harmony and victory, these are all very positive adjectives, then that's how I read it, and it works. And who's to say what's right and what's wrong? Whatever brings you to the tarot and whatever helps you to connect with the tarot is all good in my book. But this deck, completely change of heart, is absolutely beautiful. I love it. So I had to mention the Thoth, particularly the Greeny version, and particularly this version that's where the colours are a little bit more saturated, which I like. I do like bright decks. So that's a Thoth deck in there. Next up is a deck that I knew absolutely nothing about until Cheryl sent it to me for a catch-up, probably about 18 months ago now. And it's the Curious Travels Tarot deck. The title of this deck doesn't really do much for me. The image on the deck is beautiful, but if this was on a shelf in a shop, I've said it before, I would probably look at it and think, animal deck. I've got a lot of animal decks. Do I need another animal deck? And I'd probably walk on by. However, you always know it's special when I put it in a Kelly Bear pouch. And this is one of the larger pouches that Kelly does, because this deck is, look at that. This deck is a little bit larger than a standard tarot. Not a huge amount, but to give you a comparison, you can see that it's taller and wider, so it's a decent size card. Now this deck doesn't come with any gilding, it doesn't need to. I did debate about edging it, but actually because of the cardstock that's used, it's a brilliant white, and I think it works. What's beautiful about this is the artwork, and then you also, and I don't think the indie version had the metallic cold stamping on it, but I mean, just look at this deck. It is in a beautiful linen. It's a gorgeous cardstock. I believe it's US Games. Yes, it is. And you can see that we get the gold cold stamping for the swords here, but also the sun in the sky. But it is such a beautiful deck. And when I talked about at the beginning, it's not just about the aesthetics, it's about the readings. This is for sure one of those decks that gives the most beautiful, deep and profound readings. It's one of my go-tos. It's not a deck that I would use to read for others. And the reason I say that is, and I'm sure people watching this who are tarot readers themselves will relate to it, sometimes you find a deck that's just for you, you know? And I put a prompt into the tarot tag that I just spoke about recently, the deck that, where there's decks that feel like, how did I word it? Like the deck that feels like a secret between you and the deck. And this deck isn't a secret, lots of people know about it, but when I read with this deck, it speaks my language and it gets me, so therefore it becomes a very personal friend. Look at that red and gold together in the middle. And therefore I don't want to share it. And I know I'm not alone with that. I know that there are people out there, and as you can see, even though you know, looking at the box and even the front cover of the book, you would think that it's an animal deck. It's not an animal deck. Animals do play a part, but it's Rider-Waite Smith. But it is, I love that full card. I mean, just look. But it's so much more than an animal deck. That devil is everything. This is such an amazing deck. Every time I get this deck out to read with, I'm like, oh gosh, is this the best deck ever? Is it? Hermit, I love this shadowy hermit. This is the strength card, which is the cover of the this is the additional card, the Travelers, and it, as you heard, it's called Curious Travels, and these are the Travelers. Now I use this as a significator card. I use significators quite a lot, actually. Look at that, look at the colours, to see where it's shuffled into the deck and what comes before and what comes after, which is the kind of what might help and what might hinder the situation that I'm inquiring about. I know I've showed a lot of these, nearly all the cards, but they're just too beautiful not to show. So, Curious Travels. It might not come with all bells and whistles like a beautiful box or beautiful gilding, but it certainly comes with beautiful artwork that really speaks to the soul and just feels wonderful in the hands as well. So Curious Travels had to be in the list. Okay, a few more. Of course, if I'm talking about beautiful decks, I had to include Pagan Otherworlds. Like I said at the beginning, if I find that I have a favourite deck, I get a backup copy. The first one I got, I just opened not thinking about that seal. And sometimes you have no choice with these seals, but this one does have a tuck box at the bottom. Now, I did edge these because I felt, well, they actually brought out a version that was actual gold gilding in the deck. I can't remember how many carats it was, but it was around £200 to buy, and I couldn't afford to get that. And I thought, actually, when I saw, I didn't edge the moon phases. Let's just take them out a second. I keep them separate. I don't tend to use them other than I used to use them on my altar. But I did a metallic gold finish on it because I thought when I saw it, it looked really nice. That said, I don't use this version. This is a backup, so you'll see it's still in order, because when I've done like a, I think it was a Throwback Thursday or whatever, it's been left in order. The one I used, I edged in a metallic blue, and now a warning, this took about 2 years to dry. It's something to do with the pigmentation in metallic blue. So every time I used it, I would end up with blue dye on my hands, but it has finally settled down. And I just think the effect is really nice. I did it because it has a blue in the back, blue and gold. So, and like I say, this is the one that I use. Again, beautiful linen cardstock. This cardstock, there's a few decks been made by this company now. UC is the creator, but it's the Expert Playing Card Company is where they get their cardstock, and it does feel like casino grade playing cardstock with that very soft linen. It is a dream. They are a little bit larger than a standard tarot again, as you can see, but I think this deck is beloved by so many in the community. I'll show the ones that are in order because it's easier. You do get an extra card. The Seeker, again, brilliant if you use, I mean, you could just use it as part of your readings. I mean, the Seeker is the Seeker, right? But the Seeker for me is the person who's seeking an answer, the querent. So I tend to use it as a significator. This artwork is of another time. I mean, it's Pagan Otherworlds, so I guess it's not just of another time, but of another place. But it's beautiful oil paintings, and I just feel that it's like walking into an art gallery and looking at a huge canvas with these oil paintings on them. Just stunning. The production value of UC is, I've got some of their playing cards as well, and other decks like Eros and, oh my gosh, I can't think of the other one I've got. But I mean, look at the detail. Love this death card. Oh, beautiful. Tower. Yeah, exquisite. Just stunning. And then they are semi-pip or semi-scenic. So there are, you do get the pips, but you get some scene as well in them. I mean, look, Seven of Cups. It nods to the RWS. And this was often described as a transition deck between RWS and pip decks, but I'd say also the opposite way, you know, from people who perhaps just read pip decks and then now starting to incorporate images within their pips as well. Just beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. love the Queen of Pentacles. Let me just look at her. So, that is the Pagan Otherworlds Tarot by Usi. And I've had this deck longer than I've had a channel, so I don't even know if I've got a walkthrough. What I do know is the very first video I did was a tag response back in March of 2017, and I showed this deck there. So I think I got it in 2016, and absolutely. And if you're gonna get a tuck box, then have a beautiful tuck box like this. Okay, next is a deck by the fantastic Libra Moon, and of all their decks, they're all absolutely beautiful, but my favorite is Tarot of Paul's Moon. Their production quality, they just nail it. Absolutely, just bang on point. Beautiful presentation. This tuck box is gorgeous, really beautiful, as you can see. The books that you get with their decks, got my little note inside there. Let me look at this. They're leather bound, gold gilded pages, and just the craftsmanship is just incredible. Love it. And they brought out a accompanying oracle, which was Medieval Beasts, I think it was called. You turn around to have a look. Which had a red leather bound book as well. These cards I edged myself. Let's take out these extra ones. That's why they were separate, because you do get duplicates, well, not duplicates, choices, other choices of cards. So these are the ones that I chose. I love the backs. Again, this metallic stars. This was artwork from inside a cathedral or a church. They have this gorgeous, I've never felt anything like it. And that was why they couldn't edge it, because edging doesn't take to this particular cardstock, but it is pure silk. It is just beautiful. So I edged it myself. Now the oracle has a different cardstock finish, different finish to the cards, so they were able to edge that. But I actually like this blue. I think it sets it off really, really nicely. So this is a medieval deck using medieval artwork, but at the bottom you've got, again, beautiful cold stamping in gold, and it's been curated so well. It is bang on point. Look at that devil. And sometimes I've got some decks where they use medieval artwork and the quality, the clarity and quality just hasn't been there. But that's not the case for this deck. It is luscious. It's so beautiful, and the cards just glide together. They've got because the first deck that they brought out was in a tin that I bought at the Christmas of 2021 going into 22, called Serpent and Peacock. And they've got a new version coming out. I think it's Serpent Peacock Return of the Moon or something like that, where they put in some original moon cards. And I love to see medieval moons. I really do. Look at that for the Three of Swords. Death is an incredible image. I mean, look. That is Paul's moon. He discovered that, and that's why the deck is called Tarot of Paul's Moon. of Swords. Oh, it's beautiful. It's just so, so beautiful. One of my favourite ever decks. Love this Six of Pentacles. So, yeah, Tarot Pause Moon is my favourite Libra Moon deck to date. I say to date because they are bringing out other decks as well, but it would be hard for something to take the place of that deck for me. Okay, so we're down to the final three. I have to show my favourite Italian deck. Again, it's a favourite. It's in a Kelly Bear pouch, and this deck, you've heard me talk about it loads recently. I did buy a backup copy from Il Meneghello. They're both Il Meneghellos, and this is the Vechetta. Oh my gosh, I mean, just such a beautiful deck. I recently was sent from Cheryl the Lo Scarabeo primer. I forget what they're called now. Trying to see if I've got it to hand actually, but yes, Anima Antica, nothing to do with primer. Anima Antica, and originally this deck was sketched without colour, but Il Meneghello and others have added colours to it, and boy have they added colours to this. And again, it's not a straight up pip, it's semi-scenic, beautiful artistry, and just a pleasure to read. The cardstock is really nice. It's like on a art paper, no lamination at all. And the reason why I bought a backup is because I did drop a card on the floor, and as I wheeled my chair back to pick it up, I wheeled over it. However, I can still see it because when you put them together like this, there's a slight separation. So it's this one. I'm still using it because I want this deck to feel really sort of well loved, a bit battered and bruised. But I had to get a backup because I thought, actually, cardstock like this, I'm not sure how long or how many years it would last for with a lot of use. So, and I don't know how long Il Meneghello will. I'd imagine it's one of their most popular ones, so I can't see them not continuing this, but it's absolutely beautiful, exquisite deck. Love this Devil card and the Death card. Look at the colours, look at the green for the grass there. Ah, oh, beautiful. So, the Vechetta, one of my most beautiful decks. Okay, second to last deck then. Oh, be still my beating heart. So this is a Carol Hertzer deck. I chose, well, I thought I was choosing a gold back, but for me it's more yellow, but that's absolutely fine. This is a chunky beast, and it's the Illuminated Tarot, which Carol Hertzer paints herself. So from what I understand, she uses Pixie's original line work and then adds the most beautiful colours. Look at that High Priestess card. They are glossy. She doesn't always do them on the thicker cardstock. You can get them on thin cardstock, but they are thin. And when I heard that she was releasing some on a thicker cardstock, I had to get on board. The colours are lush and vibrant. Look at those colours there in that sky. and it's just a treasure. Now these aren't cheap, you know. I think I paid 120, or the equivalent of 120, because I actually traded an out of print deck with somebody who lived close to Carol and went and collected this, sent me this deck in exchange for the deck that they wanted. Absolutely beautiful. What I will mention is as well, because as well as this illuminated deck, I also picked up around the same time, I think, gosh, I'm gonna get it wrong now, but there's like a nighttime version, and I think it's called something like the star version. I kept it in its original bag. She does stick a card on the front, but I find them too distracting and they tend to peel off. But this is the kind of bag, I think it was the Starry edition, but look at these bags. So these are black. I don't know if the glitter is showing up or not, but there's glitter on the back. So as you can see, these are a little bit darker. They're set at night time, and it's very much stars, and it's also really beautiful, but I do prefer the vibrancy and the lighter colors of, because these all seem to be blue, you know, and I get that because it's the sky at night, but when you think about that, the other version with all the different colors of the chakras, Starlight edition is what it's called. Whoever's out there that just sent that across the airwaves and into my brain, thank you. This is a beautiful card, Temperance. You really see kind of like the shimmer in her gown there. There are a couple of other versions that I'd love to get. I don't know if I ever will get them. Carol's getting on now and I don't even know if she's making them anymore, but there's a couple of other versions that I've seen that are really beautiful. And she also does some with fluorescent paints and glitters, which are very, very expensive. But you know, who knows in the future if I might be in a position to be able to acquire one of those decks as well. But for now, I'm really happy with those two versions, and in particular the original Illuminated edition by Carol Hertzer. Told you wrong, guys. When I said we're down to our last three, we're not. We're down to our last four. So if you've been counting along and I said 15, you might be saying, what? But yeah, there's still two to go. Going back to Destiny, I had to mention the Ancient Aurum. This deck, my gosh, is stunning. It came, there's the certificate, 348 of 1,000. They are limited editions. They do tend to bring out other editions as well. But other than my Blushing Fool, my number one soul deck, this is my favorite RWS replica, if you like. It came in a matte brown and I added a metallic gold over the top because I just think it finished it off. I think if they do a second edition, which they often do, I think they will do a metallic gold. The backs are the Roses and Lilies design, but it's a cream and red, so like a blood and custard type. And then it has this gold stamping all over the backs. And it's stunning. The colours, so this is a straight up RWS. It even has Pixie's calligraphy. But the colours are really luscious. Again, they've managed to kind of clean up the artwork, the line work, I should say. There's no blotchiness to it, but the colours are a little bit more saturated, more rich, and each card will have this this gold, ancient gold kind of effect to it. And there's no laziness here. It's not like they've got this and they've just overlaid that to every card. Each card has the gold in different places. It's unique to that card. And I think this frames the central image beautifully. Card is on the nicest cardstock, that matte cardstock that I mentioned, that is really, really lovely. But this is perfection. Having the nice colours, the rich colours, having cleaned up artwork and line work, having it on beautiful cardstock, having the gold embellishments, still got the oh shit scriggle, so it's taken from, you know, the 1909. It's just gorgeous. I've talked about it a lot, so if you're sitting there thinking, oh, he's going on about that bloody deck again, that's because we're talking about my most beautiful decks, and I couldn't not include the ancient aurum when talking about that deck. I know I influenced a lot of people to buy this, but everybody who has reached out to me and said, thanks to your review, I bought the ancient aurum, I've complimented it. I haven't had anybody reach out to me and say, I really wish I didn't buy it. So that speaks volumes. Okay, so now we are down to, just crossing everything off in my book to make sure I haven't missed anything. I haven't. We're down to the number 1. You've probably guessed what it is. This now lives in my favorite box. It sits out on my desk, and of course it's the Metronoa. If you saw my short yesterday, you will see that I took 3 of Valentina's art prints to the framing shop and had them mounted and framed. It's of the luminaries. It's the star, moon and sun that she sent as additional art prints to me. I didn't want them just sitting in an envelope in a drawer. I wanted them out on display. If I remember, I'll try and insert a picture of that those 3 cards framed, mounted and framed here. These cards, oh my gosh, are just words do not do them justice. They're quite large. I'll do it that way so it stands out, because the contrast will be better, being they're very similar in colour. They are on the most beautiful art card, similar to that of perhaps Il Meneghello, but a little bit thicker. And this deck is a masterpiece. There's so much that I missed when I did the initial walkthrough. And if you want to see lots of beautiful readings and comparisons with other Italian and French decks, then check out Marilyn at Tarot Clarity, because she got this deck and she also thinks it's exquisite and a work of art. It's the little details of the little flecks and things that give it that that old style, ancient feel. But I cannot believe that this deck, this was an extra devil card, but the devil card that I've chose to put into the deck. The other one is more of a traditional devil with the lovers in front in chains. The sort of Baphomet style devil, but I love this devil. It's such a cheeky devil. Yeah, I cannot believe that this deck only took 6 months. I mean, Valentina said that, this is one of the art prints I've had framed. Valentina did say that, you know, literally a minimum of 12 hours a day, but it's exquisite. This was an extra print she sent me as well, and I've had that framed, and that's above my sacred space because, you know, my practice is a journey, and we're all on the Fool's journey, aren't we? So it felt like the most appropriate place to display it. And it's just everything. Everything. It is my favorite now, Italian stroke French deck. Are they both together? That's unusual. If that, no, they're not. This was L'amour, which is love. There is another lover's card in there, and I decided to leave it in because they take on different meanings. Love the Hermit. Just look at the colours and the intricacy of, I mean, look at this. The reflection in the water here of the horse's legs. The detail. One of my favourite death cards ever. I mean, come on, look at that. The cloudy grey sky, the body parts, the bones, the skulls, and oh, the fact that he's walking forwards. Oh, I love it. Here's the Tower card. Again, there was a second, I think it's pronounced Seita, which is the burning tree, the tree that's been struck as well. I kept that in because that also takes on another meaning. Here's our Pope, Il Papa. Oh, it's just incredible. The shadows, look. Just gorgeous. So I had to have this as number one because this deck actually inspired the whole of, so here we have Old Father Time with the wings to say that time flies. I spoke about this last night with Michael J. Auger, who did the El Santo Tarot, because he put his Hermit as Old Father Time. This one has both. But yeah, for me, you know, the Hermit card is about introspection and self-reflection and isolation, whereas Old Father Time is, you know, is on sticks because he's aging. You've got the hourglass, you've got the wings, as I said, time flying, walking in that lineal direction. So it takes on other meanings. Here's the other lover's card. Here's the La Seta, the burning tree. Oh, look how beautiful. So, the Metronoa Tarot by Valentina De Luca is my number one most beautiful deck in my tarot collection and one of my most recent decks. So that makes me think about what's coming in the future. You know, just when you think you've got a deck that ticks all the boxes. So at one time, this isn't, you know, disparaging of anybody else, but one time when I held New Choice Tarot de Marseille in my hand, I was like, yep, this is the most exquisitely beautiful Marseille ever. And I wouldn't have thought that anything else could come along and change that. Or before that, you know, Tarot des Arcs. But now we have the Metronoa, which has taken that spot. So that is my 1.5%, my most beautiful tarot decks in my collection. I might set this as a premiere so I can chat away to people and get your interactions live as well. But if you're watching this back, do leave a comment. Let me know if you agree with my choices. What I would say is, you know, try and avoid the why haven't you mentioned kind of approach, because as I said, that doesn't mean other decks aren't beautiful. They are. These are just the ones that stand out the most. and it's subjective. As I mentioned, it's subjective to me and it will be subjective for you. But do let me know what your most beautiful tarot decks are. That would be fun to either read in the comments or see a response. But yeah, thanks for watching, everyone. Enjoy the rest of the weekend, and until next time, go in peace. Namaste and blessed be.